Welcome to a Management Plus training webinar. My name is Kevin Sloan. I'm a certified electronic health record specialist and certified ophthalmic technician. Management Plus is an industry leader in EHR, and we want to provide you with the documentation tools and the skills to use these tools proficiently. Today's training webinar is titled Physician Wrap-Up Form. Let's get started. As you can see, I have my favorite patient, Bob Hope, on the screen. And we are on the Physician Wrap-Up form. It is accessed by clicking Physician Wrap-Up over here on the left-hand side. If you scroll up and down, when you first see the form, it doesn't appear that there's much on here, but there actually is quite a bit. Let's open this up a little bit so we see a little more of the screen. This essentially allows you to dot your I's and cross your T's at the end of the exam to make sure that you have not forgotten to do anything. Naturally, you will review the runtime narrative as soon as a physician enters the room, and they will review everything that's on the runtime narrative. That again is the quickest and most efficient way and most accurate way to review what was documented. To go from form to form and tab to tab to search and find what was documented is the slowest, most efficient, and least accurate method that you can use. Your runtime narrative is the best. So once you have reviewed that, you will have most likely gone to the physician desktop form and done your exam findings documentation. On that form, we talked about a button that looks similar to this that says HPI reviewed by physician. You will have clicked it at that point in time. If you would have gone to the CC and HPI form and done additional documentation or modification of what was there, you could have clicked the button on that form that does the same thing. If neither of these buttons were fired, this would have a red X onto this, such as this. And you can turn that to a green check mark by clicking this button. We do not recommend that you click it and turn that to a green check mark because that really does nothing for you. This button is here so that when you click this, it does the documentation on the other appropriate forms. This button will actually navigate you back to the HPI section so that you could modify this and fire the button from there. But if you've reviewed it on the narrative, it works just fine clicking this button right here if you had forgotten to do it on the physician desktop. The same way with the review of systems, if it was done, you would see today's date on here, and if there is no change, you can click this, or if there is some change, you can just click this button to indicate that it was just reviewed by the physician. These two buttons are again on the physician desktop and also on the review of systems form, so if you forgot to do it on either of those locations, you have one last final chance to do the proper documentation by clicking one of these two buttons. Again, if that's a red X, do not click that and make it a green check mark. Again, that does nothing for you. You will need to click one of these two buttons to make the documentation correct. It will turn it to a green check mark, which is just fine, but it does the documentation elsewhere. If you need to go back and look at that, you can again click on Review Systems or click this button to navigate you to that location. At the bottom of it is a green check mark. That means that you're done with this particular panel. It takes you to another panel. Again, starting at the top are some indicators. If you publish to the portal, you will not need to do anything with this. This is only if you're giving the patient a paper copy of the summary, which you might occasionally need to do, but not often. So you could click this, and you can navigate back to that section via that. This will automatically be checked when you give that summary. So clicking this to a green check mark again does absolutely nothing for you. You want to fire this by actually giving the summary. So in that case, you would want to navigate back by clicking Physician Desktop or clicking this to get to that section. Medications reconciled. There's a button on the chief complaint in HPI form that looks like this, Also on the meds and allergy form, that will document that the meds and allergies were reconciled and reviewed today. If this is a red check mark, clicking that to green, again, does absolutely nothing, so do not do that. Click this button instead, and that will give you all of the appropriate documentation. Or if you need to go back, you can click this or click Meds and Allergies form on the left. The patient education resources provided to patient, that just indicates whether you have or have not. So there is a checkbox on the physician desktop form that when clicking that to set the flag, it will also turn this to a green check mark. If it's a red X, do not click it and make the green check mark. It is best to click on this, go back to the location on the physician desktop where it is, give the education material, and then if you use the patient education module, it will click this automatically and turn that to a green check mark. Or if you just hand the patient something, you can physically click that box on the physician desktop form, and it will make this green. If the smoking status was documented, this will be a green check mark. If it was not, again, do not click the red X and make it a green check mark. Go back to that form, which is past family social history, or you can access it by clicking this button, do the documentation, and then it will be a green check mark. Clicking this switch will take you to the next panel. This is for your diagnostic testing, orders for tests done today and tests in the future. This is also on the physician desktop. If you forgot to do it there, you can certainly do it here. So if you wanted to do an OCT of both eyes, and you're going to schedule that, and it's going to be on the next available appointment, here's where you would do that. If you had actually, instead of schedule it, did it today, you would leave this blank, and then say the next time you want a visual field of both eyes, and you'll schedule that. And there's other options, PRN, next available, or on return to clinic. You can indicate that. To document your procedure or your surgery, you have control here with lots of different options to choose from. You can always free type into that. So if you were going to do cataract extraction with intraocular lens implantation, you would want to more than likely schedule that unless you're doing same-day surgery. And we'll click next available, and we'll choose the eye, and then you can put notes in here. This would be where you might document your lens type or other information. You could put the actual lens that you want to use right there. So it's a great place to document that information. Clicking this button actually will take you back in the sequence to the panel before, and likewise there's the beginning. This just navigates you forward. Now we're at the dictation section. The scribe will document their name right here. This will be all of the names of your tech within the database. So if it happened to be this technician or this one here, you could just press the first letter of their first name and it would display that. The referring physician would be documented here, primary care, and then if you have another physician, such as endocrinologist or so forth, you would indicate that name right here. Below this is a series of word merges. Referring physician, generic letter. These are stacked one on top of the other because if you have a name documented within the referring physician lookup list, it will pull that name, address, and associated information into both of these letters, depending on which one you choose. These letters are set up differently. One will bring in more information than the other. These letters can be set up to whichever format and style that you prefer. Your EHR specialist can take care of that for you. The GP letter is for the primary care physician. It will populate into this letter this physician's name, address, and associated information, and some information that was documented on the record for today. The other letter will point to this name documented in this third lookup list. When you refer your patient to another physician or subspecialist, you'll want to document the name here. And when you provide a summary of care, either put something in the patient's hand, mail it to them, give them a PDF of the narrative on a thumb drive or burn it on a CD, or if you're going to send it via direct send, this time it's actually okay to click this red X and turn it to a green check mark. That's perfectly fine to do that when you provide that summary of care, and you'll want to document the name here. Doing this will actually trigger 3 different controls on the meaningful use form. If you need to send a task, you can do it via clicking this button here, or the same button exists up here in the banner. Let's move forward. We're on the last panel of this form. This is for your coding modules that will give you suggested codes. The top one is for I codes. All that you need to do is select between established or new patient, and it will give you a suggested code depending or based on what you have documented throughout the record. The E&M code section, you pick established, new, or consult. This one here, it will default to a 99211, but whenever you choose options in all 3 of these pick lists, it will give you a suggested code. You can increase this or lower this depending on your selections. Let's go from limited to multiple. You can see it change from a 99213 to a 214. Your counters at the bottom will indicate how much you've documented for these sections and the thresholds. For your HPI, you can see that we have documented 6. For a brief, it's 1 to 3 elements, extended 4 and above. Review systems, for this record, we've done 12. So here are the thresholds here for the problem, extended, and complete. Past family social history, we've done 3. You can see the thresholds here. And for the exam, we've documented 14 and the associated thresholds. These plus buttons will add those to the charge grid. Okay, so you pick the one that you want. If you click this, it'll say it's successfully been added to the grid. We don't have a charge grid here, so you don't really see it. Have faith, it has been added to the charge grid. If you were to navigate to the charge slip, you would see that code there. Okay. This completes the Physician Wrap-Up form. Everything I've discussed here are things we'll need. If you see another control or 2, don't worry about those. Those are some old features. Don't worry about clicking anything that we have not discussed. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a great day.